Rise up, I said, rise up.
Rise up. We did it last week, and we're going to do it this week, and we're going to keep on doing it till the people do what? Rise up! Yes. Rise up!
We turn now to the story of a prominent Latino journalist in Memphis detained by immigration officials after he was arrested while covering a protest against immigration detention outside a county jail. Duran was arrested and held in Shelby County Jail. On April 5th, the state dropped criminal charges against him, but he was then detained by immigration and customs enforcement agents. He was quickly transferred to the LaSalle Detention Center in Jena, Louisiana.
My name is Melissa Valdez. Manuel Duran is my other half. The morning of Manuel's arrest, we're going to go together to the MLK celebration, but before there was a demonstration he wanted to cover. So I gave him a ride downtown Memphis next to the demonstration, and then I took the car, and I had been gone for maybe 10 minutes when I got a call saying that he had been arrested. I knew what an arrest meant in his case, and that's how the nightmare started.
I am not afraid. I am not afraid.
Manuel has been incarcerated almost 2 months now, and he's at the verge of deportation. Manuel was a victim of an unjust system that is constantly attacking the Latino community, my community. A simple traffic stop can lead to ICE detention for people like Manuel, even with no criminal record. People who have been contributing to this country's economy for years. People who have roots and family and friends in the United States. People who fled for their lives when their own countries became too dangerous to live in, only to find themselves in a divided country that is headed in that same direction. April 5th was also the day that 97 people were ambushed in their place of work by ICE agents in the largest single workplace raid in a decade here in Morristown, Tennessee. As a result, many children became orphans on that day. Many of them will probably never see their parents again. People fueled by systematic racism who constantly remind us that this country, a country we have called home for years, is not our country. The state of Tennessee has passed a law that will push the immigrant community farther into the shadows today. The new law will allow local law enforcement to ask for anyone's citizenship status at the officer's discretion. That's why we as minorities need to come together and stand up for each other. As the expression goes, united we stand, but divided we fall. Thank you.
I come to you in peace, but we are in a fight for our lives. They say racism is over. But my friends, I am here to repeat the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor.
Unfortunately, I think we have regressed in some of the progress that we have made with voting rights. My grandmother, before she passed, was to vote in the 2012 election, and she didn't have a birth certificate. And so, therefore, she voted absentee because she was ill enough to do so. But if she had to go to the polls that year, there was no birth certificate for her. So that's a woman who had fought for her right to vote, and then it was going to be taken away.
Before 2006, no state required a photo ID to be provided to vote. Today, 34 states have some form of voter ID laws on the books. They're also passing laws to cut short early voting hours and days, and getting rid of mail-in ballots. They say this is to combat voter fraud, but they cannot show the evidence of it happening on the widespread scale they say it is.
I am tired of bigots in this city and across this state saying you better speak English. The bill that passed today is unacceptable. They talk about a wall. The wall is being built within our communities, my friends. These walls are being built between us to divide us, to divide one community from another, to say you are American and you aren't. Well, that's wrong. Everybody here is an American. I don't care what your passport says. Everybody in America has a chance to live. You can't tell me that this is not systemic racism. Every single piece fits together to oppress our people. You talk about 1 in 13 African American people today has been denied the right to vote by the state. That's an appalling statistic. It's got to end. And there's no way we can end it unless we stand up loudly and impolitely and say from every fiber of our moral conviction that it is enough, that Tennessee is a safe place, and that we do not stand for the hatred, bigotry, and oppression that comes out of that building right there.
This is a war against black and brown bodies and the poor. It is time to create something new and build it together in solidarity and in power. So are you ready to stop asking and start telling? Good, then let's get it on. That's right.
We are a new, unsettling force, and we are powerful, a new, unsettling force, and we're here, a new, unsettling force for liberation, and we got nothing to lose but our chains. We are a new, unsettling force, and we are powerful, a new, unsettling force, and we're here.
Metro Police Department. You need to clear the roadway and get back on the sidewalk. Clear the roadway and get back on the sidewalk. This is the Metro Police Department. You need to clear the roadway and get back on the sidewalk. Clear the roadway and get back on the sidewalk. If you do not get on the roadway, you will be arrested. If you do not get on the roadway, you will be arrested.
The reason that I was arrested first is because I was leading the chants, which I wasn't leading the chants, but I was the loudest. And he said that he thought that I was the most aggressive, so he put my cuffs behind me.
It was persons of color who were with us who were definitely treated differently. They were cuffed differently. They were threatened with being charged with resisting arrest. No one with white skin was charged with that.
Initially, they tried to give me a resisting arrest charge when everyone else was just given an obstruction charge.
I am not afraid. I will live for liberation, 'cause I know why I was made. I will live for liberation. I am not afraid. We are a new, unsettling force, and we are powerful. A new, unsettling force, and we're here. A new, unsettling force for liberation, and we got nothing to lose but our chains. We are a new, unsettling force, and we are powerful. A new, unsettling force, and we're here. A new, unsettling force for liberation, and we got nothing to lose but our chains. We are a new, unsettling force, and we are powerful. A new, unsettling force, and we're here. A new, unsettling force for liberation, and we got nothing to lose but our chains, and we got nothing to lose but our chains, and we got nothing to lose but our chains.
True. No, it's not true. I know it's not.
They're going harder on him because he's black and Martin was the only person of color in our protest.
Well, Miss Peaches. So.
Yeah. But she did the same thing. They
were not nice to her either.
Well, there were two people of color in our whole protest, and they got treated differently and charged.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's your fault.
Yeah.
It's the defendant was advised by a supervisor and myself that he was under arrest and that flex handcuffs would be placed on him. The flex handcuffs were placed on his wrists. He used force to slide one wrist out of the flex handcuffs and tried to manipulate the other wrist out of the other cuff. I observed this incident as I stood right in front of him and other arrestees.
I think you go to the paper though.
Yeah, I think.
If you want to.
There's no harm in that.
You and Mama Peaches both. You got treated differently.
There's absolutely no harm in that.
It was the most arrests at a single protest in Nashville in years. 21 people handcuffed and taken to jail for refusing to leave the street. Metro PD released this list of people cited for obstruction of passageway. Notice Martin Hurley's name highlighted, as he was also charged with resisting arrest. Hurley was the only black male arrested.
If we had not stood our ground and made our point, then we would have lost. But today was a win.
Today, we were making a statement about there are people that are hurting in this country, and we're not going to be silent, and we're not afraid.
We will continue to fight for the rights of the poor and oppressed and marginalized through the Poor People's Campaign, A Moral Revival.
Everybody's got a right to live, and before this down to jail.